Hey everybody, Edo here, and as promised, I'm going to be talking about the final 3 days of your Kickstarter campaign, and like I did with the first 3 days of the Kickstarter campaign, I am basing it on Herbaceous, which is live now, and essentially ending in 3 days. This campaign ends Monday at 10 p.m., so if you haven't checked it out, please do, but most importantly, I'm just talking about the things that you should be doing in the final days of your campaign and trying to tie it to a campaign that I'm running so you have a reference point. So you're going to be, if you're running your Kickstarter campaign, and right now heading into your final 3 days, you are in one of three places. One place is you are far from funding, right? You're under by a long shot and it's very unlikely that you're going to fund. Hard to say. You get a lot of swing in the last. I mean, there's always a chance for some monster thing. But if you're more than 25% of the way out coming into the final 3 days, it's going to be rough. But, so, that's place A. Now, I'm not going to be talking too much about that place, but what I can say is, and different people have different opinions, but my opinion is you should not cancel campaign within the last 3 days of your campaign. I think it doesn't treat your backers well. I think it's better to have called it earlier, called it halfway through, and build that basis with the people who had backed at that point and sort of that understanding. Or if you're this close, just to try hard, learn the most you can learn, push, and then it fails, and then you try it again. So I wouldn't recommend personally canceling a campaign at this point. You probably should have made that decision a week ago if you're that far out. So hopefully you're more in the latter two categories. So the second is you're close. You're inside of that 25%, 20%, 10%. It's within reach. You're going to make it happen, but you just need to push. Pretty good place to be in the end of your campaign. I mean, it's obviously not as good as it could be if you were all set, but lots of campaigns are in that position, so you certainly shouldn't feel bad about it, and hopefully you've set a good stretch goal. The last is you've funded. You've already funded, and you're just looking to hit that stretch goal or continue to drive, just your number of pledges and backers and that kind of thing. So those are about the three places you can be. In terms of Herbaceous, as it turns out, Herbaceous has been my most successful campaign by far. It hasn't hit the highest revenue of all my campaigns. That's still liftoff, but there's a chance in this final 3 days that it could. But it funded first day. It was the first project I ever had that funded first day, and it has just been an awesome campaign, great excitement, and all of that. So I'm coming in that last category, but I actually didn't know that was going to be the case, heading into the 3 days. I had a good goal, so I thought I would reach the goal, but I had no idea that I would be in this position today. So those are the three places you can be. Now, before going any further, you're heading into the final 3 days. The most important thing, not the details, the most important thing is just being composed, being organized, having a plan, right? Map out the things that you are going to do over the next 3 days. You may not have done that the entire campaign. You may be winging it, but you're going to have such an influx of attention and people on the last 3 days that it's really important. It's very much like the first 3 days. So it's like the first 3 days, but then it ends. It's like the first 3 days, and it's crazy, but then there's this point where it just stops and the campaign's over, and if you're not in the right place, you can run into some problems. So having a clear plan, a thoughtful plan in place for where you're going to be, what you're going to do over that period. Like, you should have an hour-by-hour plan in the last 48. You're maybe not doing everything, but like, know when you're working, know when you're getting home, know when you're going to be doing, have a clear plan. Again, any sort of small thing, I really suggest that. Okay, so heading into the last 48, you've been, updating your Kickstarter campaign as you be going. You've been sending updates to backers. That's all important. Hopefully, you sort of have a little bit of a gap, a quiet period. I do recommend between, say, a week out and the final 48. You want to not be bombarding people all the way through because you really want to grab hold of the momentum you get in the last 3 days and pump it through. So I like to do something like a final week update and then wait and then do an update that's like, hey, it's the last 48. So one of the things you're going to be doing is you are going to be sending out an update to all of your backers last 48. You want to let them know, I'll talk about stretch goals and things in a second, but you want to let them know what's going on. There's only 2 days left. Asking and seeking for outreach. I mean, you have the outreach of your backers dwarfs your own outreach, right? Say you have, even if you only had 100 backers, it's 1 to 100, 500, 1,000. Inspiring, getting those backers to do reach out on their own is what you'd like to see and what you need to see. Certainly stretch goals help you do that. If you're like me, where you blew through your stretch goals and then you don't have a mound of them waiting, you just have to explain and get their help and work with them. And I think most backers sort of understand and expect, experienced ones who've done some campaigns, they know what the last 48 is like, perhaps more than you if you've never done it before. So you're gonna email your backers. Now, you do that as an update. You can send backer-specific emails. I think Jamie had a post about that in particular around going to the $1 backers and upselling them against letting them know that they're running out of time, letting them know about some sort of promotion or change. I have mixed feelings about that. I go out of my way to reach out to all of the backers on a campaign over the course of the campaign, so I set that dialogue up already. I think if you've never emailed the backers directly, it is a different channel. And certainly, if you're in that close call range, both doing the update and messaging directly does ping different things. Somebody is perhaps going to look at a message on Kickstarter in a different place. It's just a different channel to use. I just would be careful about it and really have an intent. You should not, for example, do an update and put the same information in your update into your backer information. You also shouldn't do anything that makes somebody who came in for $1 feel bad. I mean, they're supporting you. They've done their part. They're not obligated to jump up, and you shouldn't sort of put them in that position. It's not appropriate. They're supporting you, and you should be really excited about that. So, but you're going to send an update. You're going to consider whether or not you're going to do direct messages and how. In the Herbaceous campaign, for example, I'm not. I've reached out to everyone directly already. How they come to the campaign and what do they think I could do better. And then I will do the update. But separate from that update, you should also look at and consider who else you can outreach that can help promote your final 48. For example, anyone who's reviewed your game. They may not repost. There's no obligation after sort of doing what they have to do. Everyone's busy, but let them know that it's the last 48. Let them know in a direct email that it's coming up. If you have a newsletter, you might consider doing the newsletter. In my case, I don't like hitting that newsletter twice. I've really been cautious about overusing my newsletter, but certainly there are lots of people who do both. I don't want to I'll get to Facebook and I'm just trying to think of any, your friends and family, your parents, people, your team, like the people who worked on the project, people who helped you out really closely in getting your campaign prepped, like sort of your helpers as you got through. Any of those people, go out, send them an email, let them know what's up, right? So you're sort of prepped, you have those blanket items going out, and then you're heading into the last 48, and then you can start thinking about really specific social media and outreach, right? You have a couple big windows. I would say it's final 48, last 24, last hour. And the last hour one, I might do last 2 hours or last 3 hours. The last hour is a little aggressive, but I mean, the more powerful the moment, the more powerful the pull of the social reach, if there's really only an hour. But those are the 3 windows you want to hit social media. More than that, you're gonna, Twitter's a little bit of its own thing, but you don't want to, most of Facebook communities and other communities probably only want you to give the 48 hour. They don't want the 3. What you might do is you might stagger a 48 hour on this group, a 24 on that group, a 1 on that group. You want to hit them all, and you want to make sure you hit them all at least once. But a number of them are really sensitive. Plus, you're going to be reaching out to your backers to push it. But you definitely, in that period, want to have your social approach, much like you did in the first 3 days. It's practically the same thing. Go to the list you made then, and then hit them again. Oh, and I hope you haven't been hitting them the whole way through, right? You definitely, at least a week out, want to have a little bit of a build-up to then punch with the last 48. Okay, so you've outreached to your backers, you've outreached to other people who can influence and help the campaign, and now you've reached out on social media and Twitter. Twitter, you can just be a little bit more regular because the flux of people and flow is just so high. And so then you're pushing people in, you're prepared. Backers are going to be coming. Stretch goals and sort of what you had there. Now, really experienced Kickstarter creators who are used to campaigns that have huge returns not only have their stretch goal plan together, but they also have their 48-hour stretch goal plan together. So typically you're going to have all your stretch goals you're working through, but then you're going to either have a unique stretch goal or something where you're going to pull everything in to make a really meaty goal to get everyone involved and engaged right at the end. So a lot of creators sometimes have like an ultimate stretch goal, something that you haven't heard of before, really big, powerful wow that they pull in there that everyone jumps on and pushes and pushes and pushes. You really want to create that incentive if you have the time and the planning and if you prep for it. Also, so often they'll have a gift at the end, which they just had in their back pocket the whole time, which is just something they want to do nice for backers because maybe you didn't hit the ultimate or everyone went beyond it. It's always good to have if you're prepped for it. Again, in my case, we blew through everything I had planned in every way, and I like what you shouldn't do is be in the last 48 hours and suddenly say, you know what, we're going to add a miniature. We haven't planned it, we haven't thought it through, we don't know what we're doing, but hey, it's what you're supposed to do. The last thing you want to do in the last 48 hours is something stupid, right? You don't want to be in a position where you've made a promise, a commitment, change something. Hey, we're going to make all of our international shipping free. Like what? Like, don't do that. All that's going to do is jeopardize the project, risk your timeline, and potentially put you in a position where you're going to lose a lot of money. Have a plan, stick through it, understand the consequences. If you are prepared for a fantastic campaign, you'll have already had that. But it's really important. So there's outreach, stretch goals. You want to push that last stretch goal. You want to be able to make it clear to people what they can do. When you are in that update, you want to give examples of social action. So, you know, you can ask people to tell friends, but there's like, here's a Twitter you can share. Here's a Facebook post you can share. For some people, that's easy, right? Just making it easy for them. So you've got your stretch goals, you've got all this action, a lot of activity. Again, not only your own update, but anyone who said notify me, at the end of the project or whatever that button says, they are going to get an email as well. A huge number of backers don't back Kickstarters in the beginning. You know why? Among other reasons, they don't want you to sit on their money, and they don't want to hear from you the whole time, right? Like, why should I be part of the Kickstarter process when I can just get them on the back half? I'm interested, I'll find out, and I'll know within 2 days that it funded or it didn't, and I won't have this deluge of updates, spam from the creators, right? So the huge amount of people feel that way. Not everybody, but a number of them do. But they all get that notification, so they all come back. You've sent your out, your backers come back. They're going to look at the page. You should make sure your page is updated and organized and refreshed. Doesn't have to be changed, but just make sure there isn't any stale information, possibly compress it. Over time, you've added all this stuff. In the last 48, and this is where it gets a little tricky, you may see the campaign turning into like sort of your campaign page starts feeding your backers as it's gone along, as you've added new stuff, and it's not as market-friendly, poppy as it was in the beginning. The last 48, as much as we love existing backers, is about more new, friendly, new backers. And you want them to hit that page and know what's going on. You don't want them to see the top thing being an early bird write-up that they don't have access to, for example. You want to make sure that when they come to the top of the page and work down, it's sell time. It's getting them engaged, involved, and wanting to back. There's going to be this little click at the end when you turn it more into a backer-focused thing. But I've seen lots of campaigns that have turned into messes over the course of the month. Updates, changes, details, people asking questions. Like, that's all fine. But just remember, in that last 48, you want people coming to that page and saying, I want it, I want it, I want it. I think that's a big thing even experienced campaigners sometimes forget, because it's been crazy leading up to it. So you've done that. You're getting backers. It's great. You hit your goal. You don't. Certainly in that last few days, if you hit that big stretch goal, you can send an update. If you fund, for example, send an update. You definitely can draw and build excitement in that period. Only do it if you have something to say. If you're just, if you keep prodding people to take action and there's no new information, they don't. That's all I can say about that. So you're heading into the final day, and so you have everything prepped, you're organized, and you want to make sure that your page, heading into the final 48, you have a 1-hour banner, all this stuff. Just as a reminder, remember, Kickstarters lock upon completion. You cannot change your Kickstarter page ever, ever, ever after the campaign ends. They've done this great thing where they have this header page that you can edit. It's got a picture of the campaign, it's got a link, it's got a little text thing. You can continue to adjust. In fact, you don't even have access to it until the campaign ends, and then you can adjust it at will. But the actual page is locked. It is locked. It is locked. So make sure your links are up to date. Make sure the information is accurate. I personally, it's not going to happen in Herbaceous, but on earlier campaigns, if I had stretch goals we didn't get to, I pull a couple of those out. I don't need that to go down in history, all the things we didn't get to. And usually there will be some sort of, people will consider doing a thank you at the top, or a reference to your own page or link, or that kind of a direction. That mostly went away once they added that page you can edit that's at the top. But look through your campaign page, ask yourself, if this was locked for the rest of time, is this how I'd want it to be? And make some changes. And you want to know what those are. You don't want to be in the last 5 minutes, say, oh, I forgot to do that, and be scrambling to do that when you should be scrambling to make sure everything's going well in your last 5 minutes. So you come to the end, and you hopefully have funded or fund. If you don't, you don't. If you do, you do. Either way, you want to get a notice out to the backers to say, thank you, you're the best, this is incredible. Videos are always nice, up to you, of course. But you basically want to have I've funded, and either you're prepared with next steps at that point, or you're not. If you're not, typically it's like, we haven't slept in 3 days, we've funded, thank you, we're going to sleep over the weekend, and then we're going to give you an update with next steps. Totally fine. Get your sleep, but make sure you get that next step one, pretty soon. You don't want to fund and then disappear. That is super bad. Super bad. Don't fund and disappear. Fund, set up next steps, then you can take 2, 3, 4 weeks to get your act together and keep going. Then you're going to want to have a basic cadence, and you're going to be working on shipping and all that other stuff. But this video is just about those 3 days. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, check it out. But otherwise, I hope all your Kickstarters are awesome. Thanks.